Hi, and welcome to Star Lighthouse. I'm Prashant, and this is weekly reading for Sun, Moon, Venus rising and Libra. This is a generic read, so please take all the messages that resonate with you and leave everything else behind. And if this reading does connect with you, then there is an extended to it. In the extended, I would further look at how to balance the situations that are going on with you and dynamics behind it. If you would like to join me in the extended, the link for that is below in the description box. So Libra, how are you doing? How was November for you? Hopefully you're able to find some time to take some pause, relax a little, get into the mood with the holiday season approaching. So let's focus on the thought, the feeling that brought you to this reading, the question that might be keeping you up in the night. Let's focus on that. Take a deep breath, exhale, and release everything else. Just focus on that thought. Maybe this reading has an answer for you. Let's see what's going on with you this week. Ten of Swords, painful conclusion. Being blocked by King of Chalices. So ending of something is being blocked by understanding on how to balance the situation, both emotionally and like how to find a closure, like psychologically. King of Chalices is someone who is like a very strong, stable leader, especially during the time of like troubled emotion waters. These are the people to look up to find balance. So either you are looking up to someone like that or you are transforming into someone like that. To get into that position, you have to understand the emotional balance of every situation and have to find psychological closures that for the things that might have happened to you, and find that understanding balance that allows you to start becoming this like basically a captain of a ship, because ships like they travel to troubled emotion, like troubled waters, and steady captain, sound captain is like that King of Chalices leader. It's like emotionally strong, very charismatic. Not just charisma, it's just more about like how they're able to find balance during chaos. That outshines everything else. Let's see what was happening in your past. Ten of Chalices. So seems like a very close relationship. So Ten of Chalices points towards a close relationship, and then Ten of Swords pointing towards the end of it. So seems like very close relationship ended. And now you're trying to understand what has happened, why it has happened. Or you could also be like right now in the acceptance phase of it, that it has ended. Mind's ambition, Nine of Coins, Heart's desire, King of Swords. So you're redirecting your mind and heart towards and focusing towards your own personal, professional ambitions. So Nine of Coins is like moving towards personal, like thinking about personal stability, luxury. It has less impact on people around. It's more about you getting to a very secure space for yourself financially. And King of Swords is about acting for your own trip and like acting for your own personal good. So you're redirecting your mind, your space, your energy towards your personal ambitions. Might be a healthy redirection, especially if that relationship that might have broken off was like a very close family relationship, friend, or like loved one. And if that has ended, the processing time, the acknowledgement time might take for you to first seep in that information. And once that starts seeping in, then that's where you start finding psychological closure in it. until it seeps in, it would keep hurting your emotions because you would keep reliving those old stories in your mind, old emotions in your mind, and hoping that you could find a fix somewhere, hoping that something could have been done different in the past so that you can move on into like some sort of different future. First, that acknowledgement has to seep in that that relationship has ended, and that's when you can start looking towards finding psychological closures and then move on. Possible future, Page of Swords. Again, you so in the future, like right now, it seems like you're moving and redirecting your mind and energy towards personal ambitions, like professionally, and focusing on financial stability. It's a healthy redirection. Just don't put everything that has happened in the past, especially Ten of Swords, points towards like a very painful conclusion. See how in this card, the bird is like all those 10 swords are pushed into it, or 9 swords are pushed into it. And the one she was fighting with, like, it's on the side. You have to process that emotion. So you can make the process really slow, and that would help by focusing your mind towards profession and towards financial security. Meanwhile, do start, like, whenever those feelings, those memories, those dreams of the past come by to you, like in terms of hoping that you could have fixed something, try to understand why you're thinking about him. Writing about those memories might help, because that would help you give like a third person's perspective as to what has happened in the past. Because if you're constantly reliving it, then there's a reason that you need to close that in your mind. And closing that, the only way you can possible is that you can start looking at it from a very clinical perspective. Like try to understand past how you have felt and try to see what actually has happened. To every situation, there are two sides of it. Like one is what we perceive, that's based on our emotions and mental state at that point. And second is actually what's happening. So for you to get to what actually is happening, you have to find a very clinical perspective to that situation. Therapy would be a very good idea if you are comfortable talking to a stranger about how you're feeling in the moment and emotions. Therapy would be a very good idea. If for financial reasons you cannot afford it, then start writing about your thoughts and feelings when the past shows up in your mind. Because this seems like a very close relationship that has closed down. There's a painful end to it. For meanwhile, you're finding a redirection of your mind and your energy, your emotions towards like working, becoming like more financially and professionally stable. Just ensure that you don't become a workaholic in hopes to get away from processing what has happened. Don't just ensure that you don't just push yourself completely into work and you forget about your personal space, personal life, or the past. I mean, letting go of the past is more important, but don't just push it into under the rug. Suggested advice, Wheel of Fate. It's pointing towards that it was a, like if for any reason you're thinking that there's a possibility you can go back in time and make it work, it was supposed to end. Wheel of Fate shows up whenever like something, if it has ended or something has arrived, it's the right time for it. Context for this advice, Fool card. I think this is the best card to show that when we get stuck in emotional blocks, when we get stuck in relationships of the old. I understand it's very easy for me to say that, especially if I'm not going through it psychologically or emotionally, to say that let go of the emotions of the old, but those relationships are blocking you from moving on. But then Fool card is the best card. It shows like how you just carry your necessities that you need and move on. Getting to a space where you feel like so free like a fool that you can just move on to anything next. Getting to such space is only possible when you have found psychological closures, especially to very close, like strong relationships of the old. For extremely close relationship, there are like a lot of levels of psychological trauma that you would go if it ends, because there's so many emotions attached to it, and those emotions and like even understandings of the situations that you would have lived with that person might have had seeped into your memories as beliefs, as like now this is a new rule. It's like you with that person you would have gone in a different bubble, and now you're coming out of that bubble, so it's like adjustment time period. That adjustment time period gives your mind a lot of information of old, trying to see how you understand it. Are you still going to go revert to your old ways of doing things, or you would learn from those information and try to grow and become a better person? Wheel of Fate is a very essential card pointing towards how important it is for you to learn lessons, especially when things have had ended. Rather than delving into what if scenarios, how you could have fixed it, try to understand what went wrong and try to understand it from a very practical standpoint, not looking from just your own emotions. Try to understand it from a third person's perspective, trying to see what has happened and what you did wrong and what the other person did wrong. So once you start looking from a very balanced approach, then you will start seeing the things you might have had done wrong. Because for a situation to end, for a conclusion to be such painful end, there's like more than one people were involved in that situation, which contributed towards the end of it in a such painful way. And so everyone's action need to be understood, and what they have done needs to be understood, and then evaluated to further go ahead and start finding the actual lessons within. So that's where Wheel of Fate card is. Hopes and fears, 3 of coins, and potential outcome, 4 of swords. 4 of swords is healing from the deception or the painful end. That right now seems towards a little in the future, because even you're hoping in the sense right now, 3 of coins. 3 of coins is finding right people, right help, right sources to further invest in yourself and grow. It's like a help from the angels comes towards you. And 3 of coins is like, okay, reconnecting to our dreams and working towards them. So it's like in this moment you have kind of decided that you will focus more on professional side, more on your financial stability. It's great. I am not here to deter you from that. It would provide you the enough time for you to go into this restful mode, in a hermit mode, and find healing. The only thing I would suggest is don't completely lose yourself into work. Finding yourself to be this balanced personality that you will probably at some point, if not now, strive towards. The requirement would be to completely understand what led to that painful conclusion. Complete understanding of that painful conclusion would only then you would be allowed to move forward emotionally. So financially, yes, you can start moving into your own personal ambitious direction, and I'm not deterring you from that. You should do it. But reaching a full space, which is a suggestion of the cards, to move towards a fool's energy, there is first the major ask is to accept that relationship or the relationships that led to those painful conclusions have ended. Accept that first. That would allow you to understand, to let and release of all those. Stop hoping they would come back. Once you stop hoping they would come back, only then you will start moving towards thinking what went wrong. until you stop hoping that they were not like they're going to come back, you cannot find closure. And only with closure you can find the healing. So that healing's, you're moving towards it, but seemingly you're passively approaching it, which is good. It allows you a healthy diversion. Should do that. Just don't lose yourself in it. Just don't use, because we have a tendency, especially in a very capitalistic world, we have a tendency of thinking that if we are successful at work, we are stable and balanced people. That's not really true. Emotional balance, psychological balance is, once you start getting to that stage, you start realizing that emotional and psychological balance is more important than finding financial balance. Emotional and psychological balance would allow you to find success and abundance at any stage of your life. But financial balance doesn't guarantee an emotional balance or a psychological balance. So redirecting your energy and passively approaching your healing is a great idea. Just don't push your healing under the rug. Don't lose yourself once you start receiving success at work. The opportunities that you're hoping, 3 of coins, for you to start growing. Knight of Swords, for you to start acting towards your ambition. This explorative energy towards and redirection towards your financial stability and abundance will only help you. It would find back you some confidence. Especially when situations go bad, we have a tendency of taking an ego bruise. So that ego bruise would heal up, the confidence would come back. While you're doing that, at times you will remember the old things. Don't lose yourself into the what if scenarios. Just understand you have to move forward. You have to release those old baggages. Once you accept that you have to move forward, only then you will start looking at what went wrong. And once you start understanding once you start looking at what went wrong from a third person's perspective, that's what would allow you to find the lessons that need to be learned. Because it's important once you get to that, certain stages like Wheel of Fate, where things have closed for a reason. The past has closed down for a reason. It's important to understand why it happened. You cannot just push it away. Otherwise, you're doomed to repeat that lesson. There's no way around. It's like a circular cycle. You're doomed to repeat that lesson. So to be out of it, you have to understand the lesson behind it. So Libra, the cards clearly say that relationship of the old has ended. It could be a very close family relationship, sibling, it could be love relationship, it could be a very close attachment that has ended. Even multiple relationships might have gotten strained because of that end. Rather than dragging all those things towards the future, you are taking a healthy diversion towards acting towards your ambition, your financial stability, and your professional success. It's a great idea towards passively approaching, especially when such a close relationship has ended, because it requires a time period for you to go through the emotional assessment of it and the psychological closure of it. So it's a great idea to passively approach it. But whenever you remember the old, don't lose yourself into what if of it. Write those thoughts down to allow yourself to look them at from a third person's scenario, understanding, and then look it from a very clinical understanding then rather than your own emotions, and see what went wrong. Acceptance of that the old has ended, moving in a new direction towards the future, and allowing yourself to understand what went wrong will find your psychological closure. Eventually you will understand that things have ended for a reason. You will find the reason, you'll find the healing. Great healthy redirection towards your work, just don't lose yourself in it. Libra, I hope this reading connected with you. And if it did, I have an extended for it. In the extension, I will further look at how to find balance while you're redirecting yourself towards finance, work, profession. Messages from the oracle regarding the past and your future. Timing related towards this opportunity you're hoping for. If you would like to join me in the extended, the link for that is below in the description box. Libra, I hope you liked the reading. And if you did, please do like, subscribe, and share. Thank you for joining me, and have an amazing and restful week.